Miraculous Thinking. I'm your host, Elenique Marie, and with me, the beautiful Crystal Ann Compton. And people, believe it or not, we are finally at the last episode of the Kybalion.
Thank God. Sorry.
I mean, but you know what? I am really excited about this episode because I really was like, how can we just get to the core ideas of each thing? And I feel like chapter 15 really brought it all home. So I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to, our viewers about this.
Yeah, and we're just going to kind of wrap it up in a little
Yeah.
bowl. Like we'll go over what we
Yes.
learned, but kind of in broad strokes. We're not going to get super into the nitty
No,
gritty, into
not
the
at all.
mathematics and the physics of it all. We're going to keep it
Yes.
accessible. And like, what
Totally.
are like our main takeaways of this book,
That's
like
it.
for us as human beings on this planet?
Correct.
Before we get into that, we do have a few things to discuss, my dear. First
Hmm.
being, just a reminder for everyone out there that we do have an Instagram. I don't know why you haven't found us yet. Aren't you looking?
Go look.
Go look. We're out on Instagram and
Oh my
we definitely
gosh.
want to connect with you. If you're there, you ought to be following us and we would love to follow you. Check us out, Instagram, Miraculous Thinking. We're also on Facebook. We have our own group. I think we just had, I think we are over 100 members on Facebook,
Yes.
which is so cool. We're growing
Thank
like a little
you.
intimate community, and it's a great place to ask questions, which we can then bring into
Hmm.
the pod and just have conversations. And also, we're going to be dropping some files and just extras, little juicy extras for you, meditations, files, PDFs, things like that, ebooks. There's an ebook in there right now. All you have to do is look for us, Miraculous Thinking on Facebook. It's a group. Ask to join, answer the little question, and we'll let you right in. And of course, we have a YouTube. If you're watching us now, well, you're on YouTube. Don't forget
Yes.
to subscribe.
You knew it.
Are you
You're
subscribed?
watching us.
Make sure you subscribe. Also, like every little comment makes a difference in the algorithm. Every little
Hmm.
like makes a difference. So make sure when you see our stuff, interact with it because that really helps us to grow this community. So follow us on IG, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, as Elenique just said, we were going to take the Kybalion through like half of December, like through this week and next week, I think. We're pulling the plug on that, not because we don't love it, we do. But we're ending it right here, and we're gonna do something different for the remainder of December. We're gonna be talking about a different subject. Elenique, why don't you tell them what it is?
Oh, we're going to be talking about my favorite subject right now, which is human design. And I mean, what can I say about human design? It's just transformed my life. And I love it. And I can't wait to explore it with you and with everybody else. Essentially, human design is a new astrology. It's a synthesis of Vedic astrology, the Kabbalah,
Oh, wow.
the
Okay.
Kabbalah. So we have some very interesting Kabbalistic influence there. The I Ching from China,
Wow.
right? The chakra system from India, and quantum physics. I know,
Wow.
right? So it's like
Mhm.
just throw everything in a pot, but it'll blow you away. And I just can't wait to explore it. It's one of the things that I do. My coaching is done through that lens of human design.
Mhm.
I specifically utilize quantum human design from Carrie Currid Parker because I just love it. It's a woman, and she has brought a positive, and she really believes that language is transformational. What we've been talking about, right? Language is vibration, and how we talk about our chart, how we talk about ourselves, defines what we create, which is what we're going to be exploring today.
Oh, how
So
exciting.
I know you're going to love it. You're
Okay,
going to
well,
love it.
I'm excited and I'm like, I know a little bit about it. I've run my own chart. I know what I
Yeah.
am. I have a book about it. I've like leafed through it, but I am by no means an expert like you, my dear. So I'm going to have a lot of questions and I just kind of want to know because for me with astrology, like when I've had my Vedic chart read, I've had my regular Hellenistic chart read,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I get it, but it just feels very perfunctory, mathematical. I don't know. Astrology for me just seems beyond my reach. I'm just much more of a sensey kind of person. Like I want to know
Mm-hmm.
who I am in a sensey way. But with human design, what I have heard and learned feels a bit different. It still feels very complex and sophisticated, but maybe more accessible to understanding truly who you are and what your motivations in this lifetime are, and also how you process energy, because you
Oh,
process energy different than I process energy.
yes. That's what's so beautiful about it. It allows you to own your blueprint. You know, we're all in the world and we're taught from a very early age that we have to be this one way, but we're not all that way. And in fact, it's trying to be that way that makes so many people depressed and unhappy and
Mm,
burnt out and just never feeling good enough. You know, it's that unworthiness that comes from trying to live your life through someone else's pattern, someone else's design, and never embracing the power of your own. And that's why I love human design, because it from the simplest part of human design, just what's your type, will tell you your strategy. If
hmm.
you just follow your strategy, you don't need to know anything else. Just follow that strategy and your life will change.
So, like all these thought gurus out there, they're like, wake up at 4 in the morning, do this, make this decision right now, get it going now. Right? Like, that doesn't necessarily work for every person. Other people have to
Absolutely.
wait, other people have to like examine, check in. Like, there's
Yes.
just different processes for life for the different types. So, I'm so excited that
Oh,
we're going
me
to be getting
too.
into this and learning all about our types. And you know what we should do? And remind
Mm.
me afterwards, but we'll put
Yes.
a link in the description of this video and also in the description of the podcast where you can go and pull your chart. So
Yes.
before we even start talking about it, you can discover what you are, and then you can listen to us discuss human design and find out more about yourself. Everybody should have their chart as we go through this information.
Absolutely. You need it. You need it. And I have good news, which is that this month, my book, which I co wrote with several other authors and Karen Curry Parker, is coming out.
Oh my gosh, what's it called?
Designed by Purpose.
It's coming out this month. Do you know
Yes,
when
God
exactly?
willing, it'll be ready by Christmas. I think for next week they're going to have the pre-sales up, and it'll be available on Amazon. And it's just going to be amazing. It really is just, how do you utilize your design to live your purpose, and how do you utilize the challenges that you've been through to actually catapult you, which we will be talking about today in
Mm-hmm.
the Kybalion, because you know that pendulum swing
Yep.
means that if you're having a hard time right now, congratulations, because that means that pendulum is going to go that much to the other side, and
Yeah.
beautiful, you know, blessings are coming your way. But how do we make that pendulum shift quicker? That's what we want to talk about today.
Right. Oh, so this is so perfect, divine timing.
It
Like your
is.
book is coming out around Christmas. We're going to talk. I
Yes.
had no idea that it was
Yeah.
coming out then. So we're going
I
to talk
know. I
about, I'm
didn't
just
even
like,
tell you.
but I was asking you, can we talk about human design? So
You
perfect timing.
did.
We'll talk about it. And then, of course, as soon as the book is out, we are going to let everybody know. I'm going to rush out. I'll get a copy. Everybody else should get a copy because this subject is magical and I'm excited to get into it.
Me too.
Well, one last order of business, darling, because we have been talking for weeks and, in fact, months, and
Yes.
I've been talking about it for months in my communities before we ever had a podcast, that you and I had a vision. And that
Yes.
vision concerned the A Course in Miracles content. Now, you have studied A Course in Miracles, you have been in study groups, you have learned how to teach it, you are activated in the knowledge of this book. I, on the other hand, have the book and I play Bible bingo with it because it's so big. I
It is big.
sometimes feel intimidated and I don't know where to start. But the idea was that we would create a group and that we would all move through the content of A Course in Miracles together, daily reading, taking it in, and then we would meet once or twice or 3 or 4 times a month and have conversations about what we're learning and further integrate the energy of this beautiful book. And congratulations, we're about to begin. Our A
Yes.
Course in Miracles study groups starts January 2023. We're ready to go.
Yay! We're so excited. We're so excited. I
Well,
can't wait.
I have a couple of questions for you if I could just ask.
Absolutely.
Because how long have you been studying in groups, teaching? How long has this been going on for you?
I discovered A Course in Miracles when I was 18 years old and I
Mhm.
was in a bookstore. And, you know, back in the day when you could discover stuff in like the esoteric section of the bookstore.
Yeah.
So I started it, and it was just a book that I picked up and put down. Like you said, you know, it was daunting. I found the language to be difficult and kind of archaic. I, at that point, didn't know how to find a study group. So I've been off and on with it since then, until I found a group called Course Companions from the Circle of Atonement, which is the version of the Course in Miracles that we'll be utilizing for our group, the CE edition. And they've just done such a beautiful job of explaining it, breaking it down, making it absorbable, understandable, implementable. And I just took their teacher facilitator training to really hone it and even like, polish it more.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because it's just, we're going to go through the workbook. So we have the book has the text, the workbook, and the manual for teachers and students. But what we will do in our study group is the 365 lessons from the workbook, which basically allow us to take all that information from the text, that philosophy, and implement it. Because what good is it to know things if you can't use them, if you can't
Right.
use that knowledge? So we're going to, every week we'll get together and we will talk about the 7 lessons for that week. And I'll do a little bit teaching, you'll do a little bit of sharing about how you're
Reflecting. Mhm.
reflecting on it. And
Mhm.
then we'll have a Q&A where anybody can, talk about their experience or their challenges with the material. And hopefully, at the end of the day, it's a spiritual path through which we really do find our way back to God. I mean, that's what it's been for me. And I believe that that's what it is for a lot of people, because A Course in Miracles helps you to realize what is real and what is unreal. It's a mind training, it's a retraining or a deconditioning of our minds and our spirits from the world.
Can you speak a little bit to how it has changed your life
Wow.
in like maybe practical, mundane, normal ways to like the bigger heady stuff?
Well, in the Course of Miracles, especially the exercises of the workbook, it really builds on a practice. And as you progress in the book, it teaches you to really have that quiet time. It encourages you to have that morning quiet time, that evening reflection, daily or hourly remembrances of practicing the idea for the day. And as I've done that, my days have been transformed because by checking in with Source and kind of letting that ego just sit to the side a little bit and opening up to that energy, that all that divine intelligence that wants to guide us in a loving way, and just saying, hey, this is my plan for today. Does this seem right? And getting and connecting, and allowing for messages and trusting the messages. It's just made me, I've been led to so many things because of it, things that have been wonderful. It's made me more patient, uh, more loving, more forgiving, not only of other people, but of myself. And I think that that was the person I was the hardest on.
Hmm.
So it's just been a beautiful gift of forgiveness for other people and myself, which has brought me so much peace in my life.
So my sense of this and what I really want to get out to everybody is this isn't like some slick spiritual
Mm-mm.
program that you're going to be getting into. This is really for people who are ready to make a certain kind of commitment, a devotional commitment. You're going to be reading this every day. You're going to be contemplating it. You're going to the best of your ability, be attending meetings. We're going to have weekly meetings. And you're really going to be intentionally connecting with this beautiful content. And so can you speak a little bit to like the ideal student? Like what is the time commitment, for example? Like I'm busy,
Mm,
honey. Okay.
yes,
I've already
I
got
know.
17,000 podcasts and I've got all these other things going on, but like what should I expect in terms of my commitment? And we're planning to do this for the whole year. So by the end of
Yeah,
the year, are we done with the book? Like
we
talk.
are done with the workbook.
Okay.
And then we can decide whether we want to take on the text. And the text I really wouldn't take on in less than 18 months because it just becomes too dense. But the workbook, we should be done with it. The ideal student, so the layout is every week we're going to meet for 90 minutes and it'll be broken down into some teaching, some, talk between you and I, and some Q&A. So that session will be recorded and it will be available on the membership site for our members. So if you can't make the time, that's okay if you have to watch it later. As far as your weekly commitment to read the lessons every day and practice them, it's about a 20 to 30-minute commitment. So in total, you're looking at about a 2-hour commitment per week. But I always say, what is 2 hours when you can transform your life, if you're really ready? And I think this is when you realize that the way you've been doing stuff just doesn't work. It's not giving you the happiness that you want. It's not giving you the life that you want. And when you are searching for peace in all the wrong places, if you're done looking in that way, then this is the time.
And I love that we're starting it in January because there
Yes.
really is energy around the ticking over of the old into the new.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all start together. And there's something to be said as well for the group setting, because I believe I've run groups before. There's an amplification
Mm-hmm.
that takes place when people of like mind and connected hearts are there with you in the material, getting the downloads, speaking from the place of that. Like they transfer that to you and you transfer that to them. So it's just a really, really cool experience. And we're really excited. If you want to learn more about it, all you have to do is go to miraculousthinking.com/ACIM. That stands for A Course in Miracles. That's miraculousthinking.com/ACIM. You can check it out. There's a facts section. There's a little video of Elenique and I pretty much saying what we just said, though,
Yeah.
about
Exactly.
what you can expect. But search your heart, really ask your spirit if it's time. And
Mm-hmm.
if it is, we would be so thrilled to see you there. Truly.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. Me
I'm
too.
excited. Well, that's it. That's all the administrative things we needed to
Oh,
talk about,
I
although it
see.
was so exciting. All of the new things and great things coming up are so exciting.
They are.
But now let's tick over into your teaching on the Kybalion.
Okay. Nice.
Nice. See how I did
Okay.
that?
I like it. All right. So, what I thought we could do today is I'm going to try to summarize, and please interrupt me, and I'll try to remember to check in each section and ask you for your interpretation and your feeling on that. But
Okay.
we've got 5 chapters to wrap up this book. Chapter 11, rhythm. Chapter 12, causation. Chapter 13, gender. Chapter 14, mental gender. And chapter 15, the hermetic axioms. So I'm going to just start exploring each one of these in a sort of takeaway form.
Okay.
Okay. Feel free to interrupt or jump
Sure.
in. All right. So the idea of rhythm is that everything in the world is moving back and forth like a pendulum. And that's not only true for the physical world, but it's also true for the mental and the spiritual. And you know how last week we talked about polarity
Hmm.
and how when you polarize your mind somewhere along that spectrum, um, we create a frequency. So through our frequency, we polarize ourselves somewhere on the spectrum. Rhythm, in reality, is the rate at which we come from one end to the other. Some of us have, so let's imagine a 180-degree line. This being the highest expression or the more spiritual expression, and this being the lowest. And some of us are just here in the middle. So our high isn't that high, our low isn't that low. That's our rhythm. Some of us have huge rhythms. They go, oh my God, it's like everything's going great. And then everything goes terrible for a really long time. And some people are all the way up here on this side where you're like, damn, nothing bad ever happens to these people. Everything's always turning up roses. So it's like, it's great or it's super great. And maybe or normal, like their tragedy is our normal, right? Like our kind of good day.
Right.
So rhythm is the rate at which you move from pole to pole, and it is affected by the actions that you take, right? So cause and effect affect this swing, and galaxies and the universe and everything is constantly showing us this concept of rhythm. Universes are born, and immediately from the moment that they're born, they begin to decay. I mean, eventually the suns of the galaxies blow up and they become nothingness or gases. And eventually they, combine again and boom again, and it all starts. And in the Indian texts, they say, in the Hindu text, they say that, there have been multiple universes, millions probably, that begin and end and begin and end. And that's the nature. It's the nature. From the minute that we're born, we're dying.
Hmm.
It's so you can see this truth of rhythm being reflected in all of life, and because of that, we can extrapolate that if we can visualize it in the physical plane, it must be true in the mental. It must be true in the
Hmm.
spiritual. And so we can utilize this knowledge. We can utilize this knowledge to change our lives and our thinking, to recognize when our thinking is on a pendulum. And like when we recognize, oh, wait, I'm in the part of the pendulum that I don't like in my mind, and choose a different spot with your consciousness, you're able to shorten that span of time in which you stay in quote unquote discomfort.
How do you think one would be able to choose another spot? In
Well,
intention? And wow.
yes. Well, that's what we're going to cover in chapter 15.
Okay.
So you're just going to have to wait,
Okay.
everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Because essentially, we have two levels of consciousness. We have conscious mind and unconscious mind, right? Which we will then explore it a little bit in gender, are known as masculine and feminine aspects, or Neville, right?
Mm-hmm.
The male aspect of mind that has the thought, and the female aspect which then allows it to bloom, creates it, right? And so how we choose is we work with volitional mind, our masculine mind, which has will, and we utilize our will to make a different choice. So when you notice that you're hanging out in thoughts and ideas that are not going to attract for you what you want, you utilize will to inch your way up the spectrum by choosing different thoughts and holding fast to those. So essentially, how do you neutralize it? You escape the rhythmic swing through transmutation.
Mm.
What we discussed at the beginning, that
Mm-hmm.
mental. And how do you transmute emotions? Is you have to transmute mind.
Mm-hmm.
Mental states create emotions. Emotions don't create mental states. So if we change our mind,
Are we
which is
sure
what we're
about that? Are you sure about
well,
that?
it seems like emotions generate mental states, but I think it's the other way around. I think it's our thoughts are creating a story. The story triggers a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling reinforces the story, and the story continues in a
Okay.
cycle.
Okay.
So if we observe it, I'm just looking at some notes here because there's so much to say about
Mm-hmm.
this, but I don't even know. If we through transmutation, we utilize the power of choice to pick a higher and higher emotional frequency. That's what we're doing. We're choosing a higher and higher emotional frequency, such that the lower unconscious level has to listen to that which we are holding true in our conscious level, right? So and through will and through decision, we neutralize the negatives. So if you have a thought, I saw this Instagram, a friend of mine put up, hey Ashrik, if you're watching this, and he was doing a song. He was doing sort of like a clip, and he was singing along, and the song was something about this woman that looks at herself in the mirror, and she's like, and every morning I look at myself in the mirror and I say, you're a beautiful woman, right? And I was thinking to myself, everybody should do that. And what would happen if we did? What would happen if, instead of looking at yourself in the mirror every morning and looking for what wasn't there, or, oh, I have under eye bags, or I have a wrinkle here, I got to do that. What if every morning you really looked at yourself in the mirror and chose to have the viewpoint, I am a beautiful woman? And then you chose it over and over. Every time that thought came in, oh, but I could lose 10 pounds. You go, but I'm a beautiful woman. Oh, but I'm not tall enough, but I'm a beautiful woman. Oh, but I'm over 40. I'm a beautiful. What would happen is that eventually it would have to crack. It would have to give way to that vision of myself that I now hold as faith. And I think that that's why this law of neutralization is the most powerful law, and is the foundation for the law of attraction that everybody's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the mechanics of why it works, because the higher level has dominion over the lower level.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So by stepping out of my story, my human vibratory state of story of whatever, and relating to that higher aspect of myself, spirit, now, if from spirit I'm holding this vision, the body has to follow.
Right.
Reality has to follow.
And the Kybalion talked about how the different planes, starting with the
Yes,
denser, which is the physical, and then the intermediate, which is the mental, and then the highest, which is the spiritual. The
yes,
higher the plane in this way, the higher the vibration closer to God that you are. And that is where the dominion comes in. So
that's
if you're
right.
trying to shift the physical by occupying someplace in the mental or the spiritual, it does have to give way because the other has the dominion. It's more strong,
That's
it's
right.
powerful, right?
It is. It is. It's the highest expression of the same thing, right? It's the
Yes.
highest expression of a capacity. So
Hmm.
here's the capacity to create.
Hmm.
And again, like A Course in Miracles says, are we co-creating with God, the infinite, love, light, or are we creating with doubt, darkness, fear, limitation? Right? It's
Right.
all creation, but there's levels to it. Right. And so that's why I just love this chapter.
I love it too. I agree with it. And part of like my primary teaching for many, many years is just the nature of energy and how energy works.
Hmm.
And the stronger energy, we can define the stronger energy as spiritual or divine,
Yes.
is always going to make a more substantial change and affect more profoundly the lesser energy. And so when you put it into the context of the human incarnation versus the impulsive spirit, like ours is the lesser energy. But if we
Absolutely.
put ourselves into proximity through will, volition of mind, if we put ourselves into proximity with spirit or with God or with source, then we expose ourselves to this higher frequency, this higher energy, and are now more apt to have change, to be adapted. And really, the way it happens with big energy, little energy is the little energy must adjust and accommodate the bigger energy, meaning we
Hmm.
start raising in vibration. We start moving along that polarity spectrum and all of this. It all kind of just intersects. So it makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
It's beautiful. And what you're saying is super powerful. And like a visual I like to think about is, for example, the earth is a giant compared to us, right? The earth
Mhm.
is big. And so the earth has a gravitational pull. So if I jump off a building, even though I have whatever thoughts I have and whatever belief system I have, the earth is going to correct that very quickly. It's going to say, because I'm the more dominant thing
Mhm.
here with the most gravity. So what's going to happen? You're going to come crashing down, no matter what your thought is. So the weaker thought or the smaller one has to entrain, has to. It's the law.
Mm. So
So
good.
that's the I know, right? And it's helpful because then you can visualize and know, wow, all I have to do is just connect with that. Just
Mhm.
connect with that. Practice connecting with that. Which takes us to chapter 12,
Okay.
causation. So you can cause a chain of events to be altered by willfully taking an action. So no matter what you find yourself in, that might be the result of a whole bunch of thinking and action that has happened from you and other people around you. You always have the power to change it. That's number one. Number two, it's never one thing that causes another. It's a chain of things that cause something to happen. So, for example, if a boulder falls off a mountain and lands on a building, it wasn't the boulder alone that fell off a mountain. It was, well, wait a minute, there was rain that landed on the hill that made the earth soft, which made the thing. And before that, there were clouds in the sky. And before that, there was heat in the desert. So if you want to think, well, what was the cause of that house getting hit by that rock? People will say the rain, but it was never the rain. It was all the things that ever happened before the rain. And so your life is not a product only of what you've done. And that's what you teach about, Crystal, with the ancestral karma and
Mhm.
all these things. We are carrying that within us. And so even though we did not create it necessarily, we have the power to change it. And as we heal ourselves, we heal the past, right? Because it's still connected.
Right.
So that's another really interesting concept in the Kybalion of just causation. What is the nature of causation? And how much power do we have over it? Because we think about karma as a very limiting thing.
Mhm.
But karma is it's a choice in a way. Because once you awaken to something, your choice in how you think about it and what you do with it can be transmuted to a degree.
To a degree. So would
Mhm.
you say in your personal belief system that there are some things in our blueprint, if you will, that we are just predestined to experience or encounter, like built into the plan of our life before we ever got here? We said, oh, I'm going to have this experience, meet this person, do this thing, have this condition. Or do you think that once you develop the facility to be an adept in these types of teachings, that you can kind of rise above the blueprint and manipulate from there?
I do believe that you can manipulate from a higher state of consciousness. I do. I believe that that's the whole point of this book, right? Is that that can be done.
Hmm.
That it's easy to do, no, because it requires an incredible amount of awareness, commitment to choosing what you think about, being mindful of your thinking. But I do think that I don't necessarily think it's so much like we sit around making a plan for all these things to happen, as much as balls have been set in motion
Hmm.
which will cause these things to happen. They
Hmm.
will just happen. It's not like you calculated it. It's just if you hit a ball, it's going to go in a direction and it's going to do something. If it hits a wall, it's going to bounce back, you know? So it's so vast, and I think that's what I enjoyed about this book is how humbling it was to understand and yet at the same time empowering. It was humbling because of the magnitude of what we're trying to discuss, but it's empowering because I know that through my choice, I can connect with that all mind of which I am also a product,
Hmm.
right? And so if I can connect with that, then I can influence what I create in this dimension and create a
Right.
happier life for myself and hopefully overcome some karma,
Hmm.
individual, collective, tribal, whatever you want to call it. But I definitely I think it's one of the most powerful things that I've read.
And as it concerns cause and effect, I really love to go back to the way Neville and so many of the teachers from that age framed it, which is that we confuse ourselves by thinking what we experience in our life causes us to feel a certain way, and that we are reacting to the creation, right? We're reacting and we're feeling, and the effect is the feeling or our state of being or our state of mind. When in reality, the cause and effect works the other way. What you
Mm,
are seeing on the screen of your life, what you are experiencing via the people that you meet every single day, the emotional landscape that you have, your opportunities or lack thereof, your money, your health, your wellness, whatever you experience today is a result of how you feel yourself to be within and how in alignment you are with who it is that you truly are, the all that is, as you say, that we are a part of. If we're aligned from that and we feel ourselves to be that, then we create differently. We are a different kind of cause. And the effect is what we experience in our day-to-day life. The effect is what we experience tomorrow. So kind of turning it on its head, because so many people give themselves permission to be reactive because of the way the world is showing up for them. Well, heads up, you created it.
mhm.
Everything is just you pushed out to some degree as a collective consciousness, as an individual. You created
Mhm.
it. If you want something different, then be a different cause within yourself.
I love that, Crystal. I love that idea of be a different cause
Hmm.
and you'll have a different effect. I hadn't heard it put exactly that way, but I think it's really great to imagine it that way. That you as the ball that's starting everything else rolling, if the nature of you changes, then what has to come from your actions has to be different by definition
Yes.
and what you see. So,
And whatever is showing up currently in your life, if you don't like it, that's a bummer, but it's also an invitation to become curious, because if
mm,
it's an effect of you, the cause, well, where's that cause inside of you? And what if you could get in there, do some introspection, do some
mhm,
meditation, find out what it's connected to, clear it and heal it. And now we're creating something different tomorrow. So it's just all this beautiful, also the plane of correspondence. It's all just interrelated. It
it
really
is.
is lovely. Yeah.
It is. So that was sort of the main idea for causation, just this idea that things are not individual, things are all connected, and that we can affect causation by changing our response to the things as they are happening,
Hmm.
which leads us to gender. chapter 13.
Okay.
So in this, it's the idea that gender is not what we think it is. Gender is not like male, female, like we've described it on the physical plane. Um, it's and then if we look at that word gender, we think male, female. But in reality, if you look at the origin of the word gender in the Latin root of the word gender, or it means to engender, to beget, to
Hmm.
create, to produce. That's what gender means. So to make something, to create something, to birth something. And so when we examine gender from the role of the Kybalion, we're looking at male, female as the way creation happens. Positive, negative, not as definitions of something good or bad, but as charges that attract one another. And so alone, these charges can do nothing. Only by combining can creation happen, right? So the question is, what creates? We've talked about the conscious mind, masculine, and
Mhm.
we've talked about the subconscious mind, feminine. And the conscious mind it's a propelling force, it's an impelling force. It comes in and it comes into the subconscious, and then a creative act ensues, right? And so gender is the core of creation, that concept of gender, male, female, and how we relate to the idea of gender, right? So, how do we utilize the law of attraction is by understanding that the genders live within us, that even our mind is split into two genders. And I'm kind of talking both about gender here now and mental gender, which is what
Mhm.
we're going to talk about in chapter 14. But essentially, the mother pole is the creative, it permeates and fills basically the manifest universe.
Mhm.
It's responsible for creating, whereas the masculine is the idea. It just comes in with the idea and dumps it into it's like, honey, you handle it. You make the dinner happen.
Isn't
And
that
it's
always
fun.
the way?
Poor mother.
I know.
So even when you look at the universe is made of matter and antimatter, right? And the more that we get into the smaller and smaller and smaller particles, you notice that within those particles, those subatomic particles, you have positive and negative charge. And so the nature of the universe is written in gender code, masculine, feminine, gender code, pushing and receiving code,
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
of it. So gender for them is not masculine, feminine. For the Hermeticists, it's not the typical masculine, feminine as an expression of sex, but as an expression of a polarity that without which nothing can exist, and a polarity which is within all things, all of them, mental, spiritual, physical, the polarity is within them. So, utilizing polarity, we take over what we can control, conscious mind, polarize to what we want, put it into the subconscious, feminine, do not doubt, have faith, and then it has to happen because that's the law of the universe.
Well, how does the transmission take place? How does the seed, how does the idea, how does the intention, how does the vision
Mm-hmm.
inseminate? Because in our human form, obviously, we make love and we have intercourse and insemination takes place. But like, what is that through line from the conscious to the subconscious or from the male to the female?
It's the choosing of thoughts and the holding on to those thoughts without
Mhm.
doubt. In other words, recommitting to the thought over and over at the exclusion of all others. So,
Hmm.
part of why people don't succeed is because today you get up and you say, I want my own business. Okay. And then wouldn't it be fun to have this beautiful crystal shop? I've always dreamt of having a crystal shop. So, and then tomorrow, rather than feeding that idea of the crystal shop, I get up and I'm like, but I could also just make videos on YouTube. Wouldn't that be nice to make videos on YouTube? The scattering of my psychic energy the misuse of my masculine conscious faculty of mind and not being clear in my intention or committed to what I decree means that my power is scattered. And now the subconscious slash feminine is like, do you want spaghetti? Do you want a hamburger? Like, what do you want? And
Mhm.
that's why we don't get what we want. We don't even know what we want. We can't even commit to wanting one thing. So it's practice of disciplining the mind.
Well, and also Neville would say it's feeling, right? So,
Yes.
and I'm trying to put that under the umbrella of the Kybalion, but the feeling, which is, we could call this the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
we could more aptly, based on this book, call it the vibration.
Yes.
Your intention, your idea that you want to inseminate into the female, right? That has a vibration. But the vibration of you, the vibration that you hold within you, is what actually transmits from the conscious, the thought, into the creative force, which is the female, the subconscious. And so, what Neville would say is, unless you can feel yourself to be already that which you wish to be, that transmission doesn't take place. And so,
Yes.
cultivating discipline in the mind, which I think is very important, having an intention, anchoring that intention, allowing that
Mm-hmm.
intention to root and to grow, but also having the complementary feeling of already being that, or already having that, believing yourself to be, and that all is possible. Like, if you can get into the vibrational state or the spiritual state of that, now the female receives it, and now she sets
Yes.
about in a way known only unto herself to deliver it unto you, like the mother delivers the child. So
Mm-hmm.
that might be, I don't actually think it's missing from the Kybalion. That's just, I think, the vibration that we spoke about.
Absolutely. And I think it's nice that you put that together in that way for people because what you start out with is, like you said, a thought that we're committed to will then grow stronger in
Mhm,
vibration because we think it, we love it, we rejoice in it, we feed it with our attention and
mhm.
intention. And so then that vibration becomes stronger. And then the subconscious is like, oh, okay, you're serious about the vibration? All right. Okay. Cause I got, you wanted pancakes and then you changed it to, scrambled eggs. So it's like, okay, all right, we're going with this. And I think that that's what it is. And like you're saying, the emotion is a vibration.
Mhm.
So that's all we need to do, really. And I think that honestly, if I just, last chapter is just about putting that idea together. The entire universe and beyond is mind. The all is mind. The universe is mental. We co create with the universe through our thoughts and the emotions and vibrations that those thoughts create. You want to change your external reality? You've got to change your thinking. And that's the point of the book. And that's all she wrote, folks.
With regard to that, when you say if you want to change your external, then you have to change the internal, the thinking. But that also includes, don't you think, or I wonder, the emotions, regulating emotions, and also using your will, the volition of mind, to choose your emotions, which I believe we can do. We can
Yes.
find ourselves in specific emotional states that are not helpful to us and what we seek to experience and create, and we can make a choice to get out of that emotional state. Would you say that the emotions are part of this mental universe that we're talking about?
The emotions to me are a product of the thoughts and stories that we created with our thoughts about the things that happened, right? So
Mhm,
I believe emotions are automatic responses to certain ways of thinking and certain ways of believing. When we correct the way of thinking and believing, the emotion dissolves in and of itself. Like I've seen that a lot with for example, with hypnotherapy, right? Where a person has a perception of something that creates an emotion. So they have low self esteem because of some stuff that the parents said when they were little. And when the parents said these things, the child then felt something about themselves, created a story about their worth, and is now living that story out in their adult life. When we go back in hypnotherapy and we revisit the memory, deactivate the charge, tell a better story, a story that actually empowers. Now there's not that emotion anymore. We've literally changed the signature
mm.
of the emotion by changing the thoughts that created it. So that's how I view emotions, as not something that exists in and of themselves, but they are a product of stories, filters, feelings that we had due to physical trauma. Like, so physical things that happen to you can also create emotions. We can't disregard those. But then we tell a story even about that, what it means that this happened.
I see. I see. I think about Neville Goddard talking about the divine mood and desire. Like, you want to manifest your desire, but like there is a divine desire. And
Mm-hmm.
when you think of the word mood, you think of an emotional state. You think of a space that you're in emotionally and the way that you feel. But a divine mood. So I'm trying to ask my question, a superfluous, ask myself a question that is superfluous to this conversation, which is, can an emotional state exist outside of a thinking state? And I think the only way that it possibly can, maybe, is if we are in the embodiment of a divine mood. But that
Mm,
really isn't necessarily about our emotions. That's just about
right.
occupying the spirit that is moving through us.
And is that an emotion, or is that an energy or a state of being? Right.
Indeed. Indeed. Yes.
So I think what we experience there is just truth. It's not
And
a mood, it's
presence.
reality. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you're just downloading that love,
Hmm.
and you're like, wow, it's like just this feeling that we confuse as
Right.
emotions
And you're
in the human
processing it
form.
in the way that you know how to, and you call it an emotion. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good.
Eternal,
Good.
right? Not
Yes.
nothing that can shift. I mean, if it's true, it can't change.
Yeah. Elenique, I just remember having specific experiences where I was so enraptured by God, just bent over, crying, and then just laughing and just really moving with the energy of it. I'm sure I looked crazy, but just so embodied in the energy of that. And it just it's something that I think we can all access. It's something that it's a facility or an ability I think that we all actually have to kind of get out of the way sufficiently and allow spirit to come in and just cause us to feel in a different way. And also when we feel in that different way, when we hold the energy of that at that high vibration, man, that's when you are so creative as well. Like,
Mm,
what if you then had an intention? You know what I'm saying?
right.
What if you then had
Right.
your conscious mind come online and said, let's have a vision here with all this high vibration feeling, and now
Yes.
subconscious is going to create it. But
I mean, that's
anyway,
why people do drugs. That's why people have sex.
yes, ma'am.
It's this memory of this bliss, this longing for this love and this high that makes people chase it in a drug. It makes people chase it in other people. It makes people chase it in sex. It makes them chase it in things, but they always disappoint because they're very sloppy seconds,
Indeed. Yeah.
for that truth of love that is there.
Rough drafts.
Yes, rough drafts. That's funny.
Oh, so is there anything left here? I know
I
that
just
there
want
were.
to say thank
Okay.
you to the Kybalion,
Okay.
because it reminded me of some stuff, and it definitely helped me understand the most powerful tool that we have in this quote unquote law of attraction world that everybody's telling us just use the power of positive thinking. It's really about utilizing will. It's about making a commitment to yourself. And it's not an easy path. It's a path you have to choose every second with every thought. But if you want mastery of anything, from being an ice skater to a, synchronized swimmer to whatever it is that you want to do, it's a commitment.
Mhm.
So the question is what you want worth the effort and the discipline? And I forgot how much discipline is really required for true change. I had wanted to ignore that. I thought there was just going to be some easy
Miraculous.
way.
Right.
Yeah. Like, oh yes, I found this thing. And if I just do this 20 minutes a day, and it doesn't work like that. And I think
Sometimes it can.
I guess.
That's called a miracle, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes that does happen, but for the most part, you
Mm,
have to work a process, and to work a process, you've got to be conscious to how it works,
exactly.
how the universe is set up. Um, I felt my main takeaway was and is that I want to emphasize to everyone that I do not purport, and throughout our discussions of the Kybalion, I do not purport to teach this. I'm not teaching it. I'm reflecting what I'm taking in. So please don't take any of my observations individually as like some sort of knowledge because truly I struggled. Like I
Me
struggled with
too.
this
I don't think
book.
we knew this.
No, we didn't know it, and good for us.
No.
We're going to be a little bit more conscious and intentional about the books to come,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're very smart ladies. I mean, if I can just say, we're big brain spiritual people out here. But nonetheless, I just felt moving through it that I did call it overcomplicated, and I want to say that I don't think that it is. I think it is a thorough breakdown of current spiritual and metaphysical and even trendy new age topics that we all kind of understand. It is a thorough breakdown. Like if you really want to know how the law of attraction works, or how vibration works, or how everything is you pushed out, how that works, the Kybalion really gets into the meat of it. And personally, I'm going to take some space from this book for a little while. It's going to put it back on the shelf. Thank you very much. But I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to come back to it with new eyes, maybe after, honey, a year of our A Course in Miracles study group
Yes.
and all the other
Yes.
books we're going to read in the interim. Come back to it. And I challenge us all to do this. Read it with new eyes and see what else we can get out of this book.
I think this is definitely a book you study for life, like A Course in Miracles. It just, every time you read it, I'm sure we're going to see something else because we will be somewhere else and we will be someone else, this version. And so I think that who we are is what we bring to everything, right? So
all in, it was a good experience. I'd give it a B-. I'm sorry. It's terrible. I'm curious what you all think. Like if you're part of our Facebook group or if you're watching on YouTube, like really do drop a comment. Tell us what your experience of this book is, good or bad or indifferent. There is no bad, and let us know just how the process was for you, because obviously if I struggled with it, and I think Elenique did a little bit, but not as much as me.
I struggled heavily.
Not as much as me.
Struggled heavily.
I felt
had
so
more
dumb.
notes. I had more notes than the book. I had more notes to myself than the actual pages that I read. Just trying to break it down in my mind.
There are just some areas where I'm never, ever, ever going to get it. And I think we've talked about this before. For example, time travel. I'm never, ever, ever going to get the grandfather paradox. And I watch time travel movies with my husband, and he's like, just flow, just go with it. He's tried to explain it to me so many times how time travel works.
Did you see that movie with Matthew McConaughey? What was that one where
Interstellar?
Interstellar.
I did.
I have rewound and rewound this movie and made charts for myself trying to understand. My husband's like, he went around the planet. It did that. I don't know what.
But I'm like, but how does he come back? And she's old and he's young. And my husband is a scientist. He's like, if you could stop. There's another movie. It's called Primer. But Primer. It is about time travel. And I watched it on a plane flight with my husband. And I'm like, what a bunch of gobbledygook. And he's like, watch it again. So I did watch it again, and it started to activate in me. But like, it is so far removed from my interest and also my capacity.
From my interest.
The Kybalion is in my interest, but it's just on the outskirts a little bit in some places of my capacity. But I'm coming back to it as I continue to grow and develop, and we'll see what happens next year.
I feel like that with quantum physics. Like, I love it so much, but there comes a moment where I can't find anything to read that explains what's happening in a way that that I can understand with my mental capacity. Like it's written that immediately becomes mathematics, high level mathematics. And then you're like, even if they wanted to explain it to you, they can't. It's like stick figures. You know what I mean?
Have you read The Holographic Universe?
No.
By Michael Talbot, may he rest in peace. The first part of that book, he describes quantum physics and all of this stuff and connects it to spirituality before launching full on into spirituality in a really smart but easy to understand way.
Let me write that down.
Yeah, Michael Talbot, it's one of my favorite books. And then he kind of gets into paranormal stuff and connects all of the dots between physics and paranormal, and then he does deep dives into all of it. It's really, really good.
Maybe we can do that book next year.
No. I'm like, I don't think so, honey. We could maybe, but I'm like, that first part.
You're like, no.
I don't know. I thought about it, but yeah, our next book is going to be Robert Perry's Path of Light. This is going to be a perfect complement to the A Course in Miracles study group. But if you're not a part of it, it's still a great book. It is definitely easy to consume. We can hash it out, talk about it, and everybody's kind of going to understand where you are. I will say I ordered this book on Amazon and it was like a 3 or 4 week wait period. And then
Wow.
when it came, it was the wrong book, which I thought, did Elenique send this to me? It was at A Course
I
in
don't
Miracles book. It
remember.
was different. So I had to order it again, and it's supposed to get here within a couple of weeks. But is this available on Kindle as well?
I believe so. And I
Okay.
believe that it's on a Circle of Atonement. So perhaps for the viewers and listeners, they can go to the Circle of Atonement. We'll put the link down in the comments below with a link to their website directly in
Okay.
case they're very diligent. So I think it will be
Okay.
sent
I'll drop it
probably
in the
quicker.
description and not a comment because I will forget to do that, but I'll put it in the description. But yeah, if you can get the book, I just
Yeah.
think it makes it like
Oh,
super
so much
cool
more fun.
and again amplified if we're all reading it at the same time. Please don't forget. The next 3 weeks of December, we're going to be going over human design. And if you have no
Human
idea what this is,
design.
you really should be listening because it's super fascinating. You're going to find
Yes.
out all about who it is that you really are and your best strategy for life. We're going to have a link in the description of this podcast and YouTube where you can go and pull your own human design chart.
Yes.
Make sure you do that before we begin. And then January 2023, we begin a Course in Miracles study group. If you want to learn more, go to miraculousthinking.com/ACIM, link in the description, and come and join us. We're going to have a fun for a whole year.
Yes.
I know that sounds like a
Together.
lot. It's a commitment,
It is.
but I
But the
mean,
great thing is you can watch it on replay if you can't
mhm,
make it, or you need to take a week off or two, whatever, you just come back to it. You watch
yeah,
it at your leisure. So even though we'd rather have you there with us
yeah,
during
we
the
like,
live classes, but
so it's not just me and you talk, 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 and we have other people in
I
there
mean,
talking as
there
well.
are worse things though.
I would say so.
There are worse things.
Well, I think that's it. Is there anything else that we want to say before we go?
I think that's everything.
I think that's everything. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a beautiful day or night, whatever the case may be. Bye.